Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Ask the Bootmaker. Today, we got a special guest here, custom bootmaker in Vernon, Texas, who mentored under the late, great Carl Chappell and has more than a dozen awards for bootmaking, including winning the Masters category this past October in the 35th annual Boot and Saddle Makers Roundup. We have Dew Westover in the house. How's it going, Dew? Thank you for joining me today on this episode.
You bet. No, it's going good. Kind of a windy day today. It's a good day to be in the shop for sure.
No doubt, no doubt. Hopefully the wind doesn't get in the way of our internet connection here as we're talking on this Ask the Bootmaker. I really appreciate you joining me here live on this Thursday.
No problem. No problem.
I got a bunch of questions for you here,
Sure.
Maybe 8 or 9 as we talk over the next hour, or maybe even just a little bit less than that. And also we have folks in the live chat right now, folks viewing at home, and I encourage them to also ask questions if they have any for Dew as well. I know lots of folks have some great questions and things that I don't plan. So please, if anyone has questions for Dew, put them in the live chat and I'll do my best to ask them and relay them on to Dew here. Let's start at the beginning though, Dew. You started leatherworking when you were 14 years old with an industrial arts program in school. I want to know what was it about working with leather that just clicked with you? And then I also want to know more about what that industrial arts program was like, because it doesn't seem like there's very much of that in schools nowadays.
Oh, no. There's virtually no industrial arts, doesn't seem like, especially in middle school. And and it's just, it was the leather itself, the smell, when I was working with my grandfather years ago during the summers, the best thing was getting a new pair of gloves because they smelled so good. And it's just, I don't know, it's just a connection there that I got years ago. And unfortunately now I can't even smell it. I have people come in the shop and they're like, "Oh, it smells so good in here." And I'm like, well, I wish I could smell it too, but it's just the way it is anymore. But it's this would have been in '74 when that all happened. And yeah, it was a great industrial arts program because they had woodworking, they had leatherwork, and you did all of it during the year. So it was really good, and I wish some of that would come back.
Yeah, me too.
Schools would do a lot more of that, but don't look like they're going to.
Was it required for all students? Did everybody have to spend like a half an hour in that class every day?
No, it was let's see, now I can't remember. It was an hour long class. I don't know if everybody was required or if it was considered an elective. It may have been an elective at that time. I was big on taking electives. I liked them a lot better than the rest of the school. But anyways, so
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. That's awesome. The smell and that special class. I wish that they brought some of that back to middle schools, public schools, all around the country. I think we'd be a lot better off for it, and people would find inspirations for entire careers just like you did.
Yeah, it's missed. I'll put it that way. That whole thing is missed. So
100%. Now, I also read that you also have Cowboy Experience, working at the Wagoner's Ranch, and you made much of your own gear. Did that change your perspective on leatherworking in any way, being able to test out your own work in the field?
Oh, yeah. And that was a big thing over the years by being a cowboy and liking good gear, but you can't really afford it. It was a lot easier to make your own and make some for some of the other cowboys. So, you could have a little bit of spending money extra. And that was that was a real good learning experience. I mean, as far as the whole gamut goes, you might say, because just being able to do a lot of different things. And that's like now in my shop, I mean, I still do a lot of repairs and stuff, people bringing in saddles and stuff like that. Unfortunately, even though we're in a highly agricultural place, and I mean, this whole area, there's not hardly anybody around doing any work as far as repairs or anything like that. All the small shops are closed. I mean, there's not a shop or a repair shop or a leather shop within 60-mile radius of me. And used to, every little town had a shop in it where you take your stuff. It might have a saddle maker or just somebody who did repairs. And it's almost a thing of the past.
Wow. So you must be pretty busy then, being the only guy around doing this for miles.
Yeah. I stay pretty busy. I try not to advertise the point that I do repairs, and it's mostly word of mouth. And that's the way I keep it, because if I pushed it too much, then I wouldn't be able to build boots. So I try to mix the two together and try to have, most of my customers are pretty understanding that I've got a lot to do. So, when they bring in repairs, I tell them, I'll get it when I get it. And
Yep.
you're good. And like I say, most of them are pretty understanding in the deal. I mean, that's what I'm doing today. I got repairs going. I just finished a couple of new pairs. And so now it's time to get caught up on repairs for the next couple of days. So that's just kind of the way I do things.
Wow. Which do you like better? The creative, like from scratch, making the boots, or fixing things up? Or is it it's just part of the job both ways?
Yeah, it goes both ways. I mean, I like creating, especially when somebody throws something in there that, is a little bit off the wall or something like that. And they want me to do and use my imagination and do something that they want done. That's always great. But, the repairs, well, you can kick them puppies out. So it's good cash flow. So it's and it's a good break every once in a while from just sitting at a sewing machine hour after hour after hour. So it's a good way to mix things up. It really
it changes the pace a little bit, keeps you a little bit more creative on the other side, whatever side you might be working on more.
Yeah, it's good for me anyways. So
I hear that. Now, I'm curious, and if there's nothing that comes to mind with this next question, that's okay. But I'm curious, when you were doing cowboy work and sort of testing your own gear or repairing other, maybe your coworkers' gear, was there anything that you came across from seeing these boots used, seeing the gear used day in and day out, that sort of changed your construction habits when you were making the boots, going back in the shop and then making boots from there on out?
Yeah. The way I was originally taught was through a bootmaker who learned through Nakona. He worked at Nakona when they were here, and he also worked at Olson Stelter, and that's where he came up doing boots, and that's who originally taught me. And they were a good boot because it was, I mean, a handmade boot, and you look at things a little bit different, and you've got your hands on, and if you're doing it right. So, you still make a good boot. The only thing I didn't like about that way of doing things is they looked like a store-made boot. And that's when I went to Carl, and I found Carl. And that's what got that more of my creative juices going, because I learned a lot from him on that, because he was an artist and very creative. But to to answer that question, yes, because all the time that I'm building a boot, I'm thinking about what's going to go through. The way that you put the shank together, because you know that boot, or the way I'm seeing it, that boot is going to be stuck in a stirrup. You need lots of support that's going to be in there. You got to, you're thinking about your heel counters, making a good heel counter, making sure that's a good quality piece of leather, so that heel counter stay together and be able to hold a spur on that thing. Some of these guys have got some spurs that just, they weigh a ton. I don't know how they walk, but anyways, and they're using them. They're jigging that horse. And if you don't have a good counter in there, well, it's going to be bumping on that heel instead of bumping on that leather. So yeah. And the whole way that boot is put together, and the materials that I use and everything, I'm always thinking about how it's going to last, how it's going to hold up in the worst conditions. Not just, you can build a boot for, somebody that wears them 2 or 3 days a month, like church or something like that, or going out. That boot will last a lifetime. They'll never wear it out. I've had soles last 7, 8 years. It's just like that. But I've got some real good customers who cowboy every day, and they test everything I make. And I appreciate that, because it lets me see some things. But at the same time, there's times when they bring them in, I'm like, why don't you take care of these things? Put a little oil on them every once in a while. But, it's just, that's just a part of it. So, and like I said, my sure enough cowboy customers, they test it, but they like it. So, and I've always had pretty good luck with them guys. As far as things holding up. So, knock on wood, it's been pretty good here. But
that's great.
That's kind of where it goes.
That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. That's some really good insights there, and some attention to detail that you don't get with a lot of folks. When you began your mentorship with Carl Chappell, going back to that, what was that process like learning from him? I spoke to a couple other bootmakers who also learned from him, but I always like to hear stories from each and every one of them.
When I'd already built 35 pair of boots when I met Carl, and he talked me into coming to his school. And I got there, and there was a lot of things different. There was a lot of my methods were factory methods that you did by hand, where his methods were more traditional methods that have always been that way. So there was a learning curve there. But the one thing that he did to me, he kind of picked on me a little bit, because when we did our practice talks, it was just 4 rows, and I put 4 rows down, and but like I've been doing it. He looked at it and he says, "No, you're not doing 4 rows." And I go, "Well, what?" He said, "You're doing 8." I said, "Wait a minute, no, I can do 4." He said, "No, you're going to do 8." So okay, well, whatever. Well, and then he had a pattern there that I really liked on a pair of boots, and I call it the Starburst. And it just boom, it blows up.
Yes.
I said, "Carl, can you show me how to do that one?" He said, "I'll draw it out for you." I said, "Okay, that'll work." And he's drawing this thing, and he, like I say, he's very artistic, and he's drawing it and putting all these big moves and stuff. And as he's drawing it, he says, "This would really look good in 12 rows. I went, "Do what?" He said, "No, you're going to do this pattern. You're going to do it 12 rows. I was like, "Man," he said, "No, you're going to do it. You need something more to do." And we ended up putting collars on, double collars. And then we did this and did that. And that was what he was doing. He was just pushing me. I mean, it took me 2 days just to sew the tops, just to do the Starburst in there. And I mean, it was a great experience. No, nobody else would push me like that. And that's what he always did. He pushed me and pushed me and pushed me. And I guess he saw some, I don't know, some ability there, you might say. And but that's what he did. He pushed and pushed and he pushed. And one of his biggest deals, or his sayings that used to drive me crazy, is he'd walk by you and look over your shoulder and say, "You gonna leave that like that?" And then walk off. And you're like, "Leave what? Like what? Carl, come here. What are you talking about?" And I mean, and he thought it was the funniest thing in the world. But I mean, I say it was 2002 when I went through his class, and then started putting his methods into my deal. And I would go back, spend a couple of days with him, and then it got to where he was calling me in to help teach class, and then he got to call me in whenever he was getting behind. He calls me one day before the ranch rodeo. Says, "Dude, what are you done?" Well, it was about a week before. I said, "Well, I'm just doing some work." He said, "Can you come over here and help me?" Well, I guess, Carl. He said, "I need you for several days." And I went, "Well, okay, well, we'll work something out." He said, "I'm behind. I got 4 pair to make for the ranch rodeo."
In a week.
In a week.
Oh my
and
gosh.
And I asked him, I said, "Whoa, how much have you done?" He said, "I got one of them on the last. The others are in different deals." And he had a couple of other people that were there at the time. Steve, just lost his last name. Anyways, he had a guy working for him by the name of Steve. And we all jumped on this stuff, and we finished out 5 pair of boots in a week. I mean, and it was just, we were starting at 7 o'clock in the morning and going till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Wow. And just bang, bang, just balls to the wall type stuff. So that was interesting, and but that's the kind of relationship we had. He was a good friend also. So, it was, and I learned a lot by helping in doing the classes whenever he'd call me in on that. And it was generally, he would call me in for the second week, because that's when we was getting everything bottomed out, putting on the last and getting them bottomed out, where the more physical part came in, because he was getting to where it was harder on him with his old ticker and everything. So he'd rather have somebody else come in there and do the hard stuff, which was fine. But I learned a lot and doing that, because somebody messes something up and you've got to help them fix it. You learn a lot. Even the teacher learns out of those deals. So it was sure enough a good experience, and I enjoyed it a lot. Which, I mean, Carl was very entertaining, so that always helped.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. That's incredible. Thank you for sharing those stories. I love hearing stuff like that, and I know everybody watching and listening does as well. I'm so glad that you touched on those Starburst stitch patterns, because that's got to be one of my favorites that I see on your page quite frequently in many different variations. That's really stands out to me. Did he get that from someplace, or did he make that himself?
I don't know for sure. Now, I have never seen it before.
Me either.
I mean, the first time I ever seen it was through Carl, and I have never, in all the boots that you see people taking pictures of, different people's style, different bootmakers. I have never seen another one other than people who have gone through Carl's school, and you can generally pick that up. You say, yeah, you picked that up from Carl, and he did a double too, and I stole it, which he said I could. So a double starburst, and I call it palm tree because if you do it just right, it looks like two palm trees kind of coming up into the quarters. And I like doing that one too because it's just something. It's a nice different look, and you can cover a lot of country, a lot of area with it, and it really looks nice. And the starburst, I don't know. The Starburst looks a lot harder than what it is because, or for me anyways, because you got these long flowing points that to me, it's easy to flow into them, and it just makes this big, huge starburst. And I got to where I could do it pretty fast too. So, I like it. It's a real good pattern, and you can make it fit in just about anything. Just depends on how many rows and how many points you want. So it's just one of them things.
It looks great. I love how unique it looks. Right there. I saw the one that you did with the sort of palm tree ones that you're talking about. But when it's like right in the middle of those tops, it looks so good.
Oh yeah, it stands out. I did that one time, and a friend of mine who was into marijuana leaves, so I made it into a marijuana leaf and doing with the same points and everything, and that turned out pretty cool because it was a gray top, and I did all green stitching, so that was kind of fun.
No doubt. Sounds fun. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I love hearing the stories behind stitch patterns. There seems to be so many out there, and with all the copying that goes on between not only in the custom bootmaking space, but then the factories and the big brands, they take and they never say this came from this bootmaker. So no. It's always nice to hear where some of these stitch patterns come from. How do you feel about that with how stitch patterns are sort of just used willy-nilly throughout the industry?
Well, I think it's okay if you have permission from somebody. And I mean, there's a lot of bookmakers out there that I really respect their work and all that. And let's just throw Mike Bond. Mike Bond's got a stitch pattern that I just truly love. And it is great. And I would love to be able to stitch it, but I'm not going to because that is his. That's his deal. And he does it and he makes it look wonderful. And it's hard on the eyes. I know it's hard to stitch because it's hard on the eyes because you got so many points going everywhere. But like I said, that's his. I look at it, I mean, if somebody were to take some of mine, I got them from Carl. A lot of my stitch patterns I got from Carl. But he was my mentor. So that's, that's a different story. And then some of the basics, I mean, what we call the Christmas tree, or some people call it a wheat head, it's a standard that's been around for forever. But I have my variation of it. So it's kind of a come and go deal. I know, I mean, which of course I can pick mine out anywhere, the ones that I've done. And at the same time, I've seen some other people who have tried to do variation. And you go, you tried, but it didn't get done. In my opinion, in my humble opinion, So, you know, it's a, I don't have problems with anybody using anything that I do,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, that's my, you know, I do things different than what a lot of other people do. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm not going to try to do something that I really know is a individual's pattern. I ain't touching it. You know,
I don't blame you.
that's
Yeah.
there. So, you know,
I hear
that's
you.
what I'm
They
saying.
say imitation is the highest form of flattery, don't they?
Well, yeah, yeah. And too many times imitation just don't cut it.
Yep. But you're still flattered either way that they tried.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. I'm going to go to live chat here for some questions from folks. We got Mark Fletcher is in here.
Oh,
How's it
geez.
going, Mark? Thanks for joining. We got a couple questions from folks watching live. I want to remind everybody who just tuned in here with Dew Westover that you can ask questions in the live chat. We got a question here from Kevin Joyce, and this one comes up at least every once every Ask the Bootmaker, and I love to hear answers. Kevin Joyce asks, is there a favorite or least favorite hide you like to work with?
One of my favorites would be a more for a work boot, as in it'd be a shrunken shoulder or an oil tan. I mean, generally, you know, they stretch really good. They take the last, everything, you know, works really good. You don't have to work really hard. One of my least favorites, I like it, but it's such a pain, is ostrich, because you just don't never know what it's going to do. I mean, you get pieces from the hide in the same cut now, and they'll be different. So it's just, you never know what you're going to get. And but ostrich is great because the way it holds up and all that. So you kind of do what you can and go on. Hang on just a second. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That'll work. Yeah. Just leave them right there. Thanks, George.
Perfect. He's a busy man, like we said.
Yeah. I guess I should have put a note on the door. But anyways.
No way. No way. This is what it's all about. This is why we do it live. It's so cool. It's work in progress, and this is happening right now. Going back to the shoulder that you said was one of your favorites. Now there's different shoulder from like different tanneries all across the world, from Spanish shoulder to Mexican shoulder. Is there one that you like better, or from a different country or different tannery?
And I haven't seen it in a while. And with what we used to call a Spanish shoulder, I like the looks of it. It's the looks. It doesn't have that. Like most of the shoulders you get now have got a real coarse grain. You know, the way it's all shrunken, and you know, some people don't like that. But as far as their workability, they all seem to be pretty much the same. I mean, I mean, because it's been shrunken, a lot of times to stretch it out is nothing, because it was shrunk. So once you stretch it out, and and by crimping, you know, now most of the traditional bootmakers crimp their vans, and
Which
and
means
it's
you stretch
getting
it before you last, right?
right, and it's
For
getting
everybody
that
watching.
initial stretch out,
Mhm.
so that you can put your patterns on and get everything done. Um, a lot of the factories, they do things different. They don't do any crimping or anything. It's the way it's cut, the way they lay their vamp down onto the top. So there's a lot of stretch left in a shrunken shoulder using that method. And that's why a lot of times you get a lot of these factory boots, first time you get them wet, and these things just blow up. You know, they gain 2 sizes. So anyways, that was nothing. If they're unavailable, so am I. But where was it going? Anyways, and that's the thing about the front and shoulder. It's got a lot of stretch to it that a person really needs to get out before you go to trying to put it on last. And that's why some people really don't like it as far as wearing it. And if you the bullhide, whatever you want to call it, I mean, it's all the same. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it's been tanned. A lot of the boots that are coming out of the factory tend to be a little hard because they got to use something that's not going to have a lot of stretch in it. So there's that. It's just kind of a give and take type deal. But yeah, I really like the shrunken shoulders. And as far as exotics go, I really like elephant. I mean, it's generally nice to work with. I mean, the elephant that's available to us, that's been tanned, for our industry is generally really good to work with. So, and it's got a nice look. Everybody wants to make a work boot out of it, but it's gotten so expensive that you can't make a work boot out of it. It's, it's a dress boot. So, it's one of them things.
Yep, no doubt. I hear a lot of people baby their elephant boots just because they were really expensive. But man, it seems that leather can just hold up through anything.
Yeah, it's got a good abrasion resistance. You can't hardly scratch it, and that's the greatest thing about it. But one of the things that I've found over the years because of that, some people think it's indestructible. And they won't never take care of it, and then it goes to crack. And it's like you still got to oil them. You still got to take care of these things. So I've had to have a conversation with people, about that stuff. You take care of them, shoot, man, them things last for forever. But if you don't, nothing lasts if you don't take care of it.
No doubt. No doubt. Thank you for the question, Kevin Joyce. We got another question in here from Neil in Scotland. And he offers congratulations on winning the Masters category at the Wichita Falls Boot and Saddle Maker Roundup. But were there any other pair of boots there besides from your own that really turned your head?
Oh, there were several. There was this. That little video you did, and when you were talking to Mike Vaughn, and he was saying, there's a lot of good boots there. A lot of very well-made, stylish, everything about it. That was probably the best I've ever seen. Wow. As far as just boot after boot after boot after boot. That was a nice, clean, well-made boot. And the guys that were in the there's some of these cats throwing some different deals in there as far as dyeing their edges and doing this, dyeing soles, and it's like that's nice to see. Some of these guys coming up for throwing some of these different ideas out there. You kind of get stuck in a rut, you might say. You're doing things, this is the way you do things. And then you start seeing these other guys and you go, that was pretty cool. And there was a lot of that this past year. A lot to look at. There sure was. So yeah, it's getting better. The guys that are coming up, a lot of them, it's like Lisa said, about trading secrets, you might say. Being able to talk to other bootmakers who are more willing to talk now, whereas used to, I mean, they weren't going to tell you nothing unless they liked you or you were working for them. And but now, everybody is just pretty much willing to, offer advice and stuff like that, which is great for these guys coming up because it's not something that is learned overnight. It takes years and years. And by being able to talk to other bootmakers, you can get some ideas that you might be able to incorporate into the way you do things. You can get some ideas what you don't want to do. It goes both ways. And sometimes it takes some time to get that all worked out. I always tell people that bootmaking is a lot of rule of thumb, because I mean we got our ways that we're going to attack this thing and start building it, but we've got way too many variables. Looking at your leather, things going different with that, and you got to be able to kind of change on the run sometimes in order to work with what you got. And I've had some people over the years that really wanted to make boots, but couldn't get that in their head. They wanted it all. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. They wanted it all just step by step, and it don't work that way. There's way too many variables in there that can foul you up. So, and like I say, you kind of got a lot of it's during the construction. You got to kind of change up every once in a while. And the only way you can do that is by the experience of doing it. To give you an idea before it happens, you thinking, okay, that's looking a little bit suspect. I better do something about that, rather than right in the middle of it and everything goes to hell in a handbasket. But because it will do
it. No doubt. Do you think that's part of the reason why some bootmakers are sort of sharing information a lot more with the younger generation of bootmakers, going back to what you said at the beginning? You're the only guy within miles repairing boots, making boots, when it used to be every town. And maybe back then it was a little bit, it made more sense to, be a little bit more competitive and share secrets. Yeah. But now with it being so, people aren't around anymore to do some of these things. You think that's why people are starting to open up a little more?
I think so. Hang on just a second, Jeremiah. Yes.
You got it. I want to remind everybody that you can learn more about Dew Westover and his custom boot shop in Vernon, Texas. If you go to dewsboots.com, it's a newer website that he just created within the past 7 to 8 months. And even if you're not in the market for a new pair of boots, I definitely recommend that you go visit that website because it looks spectacular. And I got some questions to ask Dew about that here in a minute. And just go there, look at the beautiful website that he has put together, some of the examples, and head on over to his Facebook page as well. You can see the Starburst stitch pattern that we were talking about earlier there, and it show up in a couple of different variations like the palm tree styles and stuff. So I definitely recommend that you check out the website and the Facebook page. Of course, the Facebook page links from the website. And I want to also thank everybody who is in the live chat right now asking questions. And here we go. We are back at it. Welcome back, Dew. I was filling the air for you.
Yeah, there you go. But yes, I mean, what you're saying is right, because there's not as many around. And there's the competition. I mean, we all want to have all the customers we can have, but at the same time, we can't build, no one person can build everybody's boot, so, and as scattered out as we are, you may not want to drive halfway across the freaking world to see a bootmaker if there's somebody there closer to you, that can still get the job done. And yeah, it's a lot more open, and I think it is because we don't have apprentices. The days of that's gone. That's one reason why you're not seeing any very many people get into this. it's hard to get into. I mean, your machinery, you can get by on the cheap for a little bit, but then you got to start getting some pretty good equipment, and it's it gets expensive, and there are certain things that you really need to have. So there's that too. And like I said earlier, it don't happen overnight. It takes quite some time. I was lucky in the fact that I was still working for Wagner's, cowboying during the day, and I was building boots at night, and I had it priced to where everybody, and I was wanting experience. So yeah, boy, yeah, I was making boots, and first ones are pretty rough, but we got it done. So that was, like I said, that was 2 years building boots at night and working during the day. A lot of people don't want to do that. So, and I've had a couple of guys come through here that I've trained on, and one of them was pretty good. He ended up getting burned out because he didn't jump his prices near fast enough. So it just, he, like I say, he just got burned out, and that happens too, and it's tough,
Yeah.
you really got to love it. And, be able to come in here every day doing bang, bang. Some people can't do that. I won't say I was forced into it, but I could see the writing on the wall, because cowboying's a young man's game, and it was getting to that point where it's like, buddy, you're going to have to do something. So, I just kind of changed gears a little bit. And like I've told people before, they asked me, said, well, do you miss cowboy? And I said, yeah, on the pretty days. It was great then, but one thing about it is I had never had a boat come up a rope trying to eat me up, so it's a lot safer.
No doubt. No doubt. It's interesting that you touch on burnout and raising prices. I recently talked with Tyler Lyle, who won a couple of categories in at that same Wichita Falls roundup there. And he mentioned about raising his prices just recently. Now that he's so far ahead and everything, can you talk a little bit about the importance of that? Especially now with who knows what anything is worth anymore.
Well, yes. Yeah. That's all and a very individual thing. A lot of people or bootmakers base it on how far behind they are more than anything else. And, if you were, I just throw a number out here. If you was getting $1,000, you could get 3 or 4 years behind like that, if you pushed it. And that's the way a lot of them face it. The further they get behind, they start upping their prices. So it slows that deal down. People come in and they say, well, you want an X amount. That's too much. So they don't order. Whereas if it had been lower, they might have ordered. But you're so far behind that, okay, if you want me to build you a boot, I'm this far behind, it's going to cost you this amount of money. So, and everybody's doing that. That's kind of a rule there. Back to that rule of thumb. It's kind of a rule of thumb type deal. I know bootmakers that make a chunk of change for what they do. And it's got a lot to do with location. course, location, location, location. It's got a lot to do with your how well known you are. That's got a lot to do with it. And of course, I mean, with the internet and all that, you can sure show off a lot of stuff to a lot bigger area than what you ever could before. I mean, that's the only reason I'm on the internet like I am, because my kids, they're like, you old dinosaur. And there's some of the things I do that, yeah, I'm still an old dinosaur. And I just, that's like when we was getting this thing started. You saw how that went. But I wouldn't be on there if it hadn't, that's a good way to advertise. So, it's all, and it's different with everybody. But, you're kind of your real thumb is, you got to size all that up and price it accordingly. I've had other bootmakers tell me my prices were too low. I'm in an area that really is kind of, economically disadvantaged. And I got a lot of, cowboys and stuff. Cowboys don't make much money. But the cowboys are my guys. I mean, I came up doing that and I love them guys, so I try to do some things to help them, and keep my boots in that place, you might say. So, some people may think I'm goofy, but that's the way I do things. It works.
I think that's a great way to go. I think that's extremely respectable, and it's important work for sure. Now, you touched on pricing and what might affect pricing, and sort of the attention and the where you are advertising, and Dew mentioned that it was tough to start this Zoom. We had to go through we had some technical difficulties before we started, but we got it working. And my question is around that. You won a lot of awards for just your cowboy boot construction in general, and over a dozen over the past 20 years or so. And what do you like best about putting your boots up for competition? Is it the attention that you get from that, or is it sort of more personal? Like, where does this rank among what other people are doing just in general? And does that affect your prices too?
Well, yeah, some of my buddies, they're going, every time you win something, you up your prices. So, and it's me. I mean, when I really got started, it was a validation. It was a validation that, yeah, you could compete. People see your stuff and they go, "That's really nice." So, and that's great. And not which I still do it. I don't do it as often because I mean, you still need validation, that you're doing things and you're doing a good job of all that. And that's a good thing. But at the same time, I don't have to have it. But there's still the competitive deal, especially if I get a boot that's that I'm liking, and I like the way it's going together, and I think it's pretty or whatever, or if I see it coming down the road, I will get with that customer a lot of times and say, "Hey, would you mind if I put this in this competition?" And generally they're like, "Oh yeah, that'd be cool." So, and that's generally what I do. And if it'll work out right. I had a boat that I was sending to Sheridan, Wyoming, to a contest out there this past year. And I had that boot done a month and a half before it was time, and it was a lady's boot, and it was cute. It was nice. And so I, called and asked her, do you mind? You won't be able to wear them for, nearly 2 months. Oh, no, I think that'd be wonderful. So, and I won, which made it all wonderful. So
now she has a award-winning pair of boots at no extra cost.
Yeah. So, and it's, and Wichita, Wichita Falls is by far, I mean, in my opinion, one of the very few competitions. But there are so many bootmakers in this country, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, that you get to see a lot of boats, and you get to see some really nice stuff that some people putting out. It make you a little jealous every once in a while. Golly, wish I'd have thought of that. So it's, and at the same time, it's great for getting ideas and visiting with people you don't see very often. I thoroughly enjoy Wichita Falls at the Boot and Saddle Makers and everything that's going on. I'm glad that that Kathy Kimmel is still doing that after Eddie passed and all that. Really means a lot. It really does. It's just look forward to it a bunch. So
yeah, I'm really happy that she's continuing that too. She very protective of it. I had to make sure, like, I really sold the fact that I wanted to make this video there to her, and she allowed me to. And after some convincing, and huge shout out to Kathy for keeping it going and for allowing me to record. It's seriously an incredible event.
Most definitely. Yeah. Like I said, I look forward to it every year. The greatest thing ever. So,
well, I'll see you there this year then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll be there.
Love it.
I don't know if I have any boots there, but I'll be.
We'll see. Got to make sure you don't win them all now. All right, I got a couple more questions for you here. Thank you for spending your time with me, and thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to jump back into the live chat here with this question from John Pribnow, and he asks, before settling on a custom boot maker, what are some good questions to ask them before moving forward?
Oh my. Well, that's a very good question. The main question, and I mean oh gosh, I mean you've got bootmakers who are individual, and you've got small boot companies who are comprised of maybe 3 or 4 individuals. And I mean, to me, I think that's one of the things is I mean, who's making your boots? Are you just the person you're talking to? I mean, is that the bootmaker? Or and like I say, and what to me, I want to see what they make. The proof is in the pudding. Let's look at what you've got. What have you made? Where I want to see an example of your work. That's the main thing. A lot of it's going to have to do, asking how long, it takes to get a pair. If they're putting out a pair, every couple of months, ooh, there's more than one hand in on that, and most of your bootmakers, I mean, as far as individual bootmakers, are going to be anywhere from a year to 3 years behind, depending on how they're doing things. And some of it's going to be in the price. Some of it's And the most important thing to see an example. Fit is such a subjective term. When I measure people, I ask a lot of questions because everybody's got their own idea of what a fit is. That's one of the hardest things in this business is the fit and making sure that everybody's happy. That'll test you sometimes. And most of it is just having a good one-on-one relationship with whoever's building your boot. As far as that questions, I don't know. That I don't know what to say there.
It's more about from what it sounds like, it's more about what the bootmaker asks the customer rather than what the customer asks the bootmaker.
Yeah. You've got, as a customer, you've got a question of, okay, what can I have them made out of? Can you do this or can you do that? Or can you make, if you were going to, get artistic, can you do some wild thing on the top? And the way I always looked at that is if you can show me a pretty good example, Jerry, I can get it done. But, I'm not that kind of an artist. I've got to see it either in front of me, what a general idea is, or I already have it in my mind. If I already got it in my mind's eye, I can do it. But, if somebody comes in and says, well, can you do this? Oh, no, what you got? And then, as a bootmaker, then you got lots of questions to ask a customer because, you got to have that relationship. You got to, people ask, well, how long does it take to measure? Well, it don't take very long to measure, but we need to sit and visit for, hour and a half, 2 hours to get this done. So I can really kind of get a feel for you, what you like, and you can kind of see how I am. Mm-hmm. It's a personal relationship, and that's kind of hard sometimes, but that's the way I see it anyways.
I love it. Thank you for the answer. And thank you for the question, John Primnow. Was a very good question. I appreciate you guys asking questions here every Ask the Bootmaker episode. Now I got one more question for you, Dew. And it's kind of, I don't know, a little bit out there, but you've been doing boots for, over 30 years or so, and several awards. And here's my question. What has bootmaking or leather working in general just taught you about life that you don't think that you would have learned elsewhere working in a different industry?
Well, I don't know that bootmaking taught me anything about life. I know that coming up the way I did with, hard work, you're expected to give a man an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, all that was hammered into me as I was coming up. It's got a lot to do with what I do here. Now, that's and that's why I say I don't know if bootmaking has taught me anything, but life has taught me more about my bootmaking because I'm going to put so much into it because that's what was hammered into me since I was big enough to listen. And so that's That's the best answer I got for you.
And
I mean,
that's the best answer that I wanted. That's so good. I love it. Thank you. That was great. It's not the bootmaking that taught you about life. It's the life that taught you about bootmaking. Cut it, print it. We're good. Thank you so much, Dew. I'm wondering if you could sort of sign us off by telling folks where to find you and maybe how to order, what that process is like, the best way to contact you to get a pair of boots in the works.
Okay. Which of course, Dew Westover. The best way to get in hold of me is over the phone. It's 940-552-9288, and schedule an appointment, visit with me, or we can visit over the phone and get some good ideas. You will need to come in. We make an appointment, come in and get measured, spend some more time together to visit and talk about what you want to do. I get a very small deposit on my boots. It's just essentially being paid to measure you and get you in the queue. And after that, that's all up to the individual. That's the best way to just get in touch. And I mean, I've got a website now, and it's dewsboots.com. You can see several I was really impressed with these people who did this for me.
It looks great.
It's very nice. On my Facebook page for Dew's Custom Man-Made Boots, I put everything I make. It goes in there. I put it on, take pictures and put it on there. I'm no professional photographer. They'll probably be a lot better, but anyways, you can see a lot of the things that I've done, and maybe it'll give you some ideas. Maybe not. Maybe you got something already that you'd like to get in the works. Just get in touch with me. There are various ways.
Love it. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today. Don't go anywhere. Dew, I got some questions before or after I sign off with everybody else. Everybody, thank you for watching today. Really appreciate you asking questions during this episode of Ask the Bootmaker, and definitely visit dewsboots.com and like the page on Facebook. I'll see you on the next one, guys. You are the best. Have a spectacular day. Cheers.